Namaskar, this is Akhilesh Bhargava. Welcome to Tit-Bits on Business and Finance with me. The collapse of the PMC Cooperative Bank in Mumbai once again brings into focus the role of auditors and regulators in the matter of regulation and control of financial institutions and banks. And here, the regulator happens to be the Reserve Bank of India. Much as the Reserve Bank of India likes to say that it is not empowered enough to regulate, control and supervise cooperative banks in India, despite that, the public ire in this case has been directed toward the Reserve Bank of India, and frenzied, dismayed depositors who are in danger of losing their life savings. In fact, 2 lives have been already lost. These depositors have been holding demonstrations before the RBI offices on and off. The pertinent question that they ask is that when the Reserve Bank of India became aware somewhere in 2017-18 that there are serious violations in the conduct of the PMC Bank, then why did it not take immediate corrective action in order to protect the interests of the deposit holders? And why did it just indulge in an empty formality, which is informing the Registrar of Cooperative Societies and not even bothering to check whether any kind of an action has taken place or not? The second question, of course, being asked is, why did this particular fraud in the PMC Bank remain undetected for so many years, despite the fact that it is under the regulation of the RBI? What we are witnessing in India in the past couple of years in particular is extreme stress and crisis in the banking industry and also in the NBFC industry. This stress is not just because the huge NPA problem remains unresolved, but it is more so because giant frauds, blatant frauds and mismanagement is being detected with almost boring regularity in organization after organization, and large institutions have been found to have misused tons of public money. The crisis has resulted in loss of confidence in the banking industry and in the NBFC industry. And as I said, they have particularly been surfacing for the past couple of years. It all began with the Nirav Modi giant $2 billion fraud being detected in the PNB. This fraud had continued for many years, and it had taken place in a branch which had been inspected by the Reserve Bank of India, and despite that, the RBI had not detected it at all. It was detected somewhere in January 2018. At that point of time, the Finance Minister of India, the late Mr. Arun Jaitley, very categorically blamed the Reserve Bank of India for negligence, because of which he said the Nirav Modi fraud had occurred in the PNB. At that time, the then Governor of Reserve Bank of India, Dr. Urjit Patel, denied it. All that he said was that the Reserve Bank of India is not empowered enough to take action against the top executives of public sector banks, since that authority only lies with the Government of India. He thus absolved the Reserve Bank of India of any blame in the matter, even though the public perception did not think so. At that point of time also, questions were raised about the conduct of the Reserve Bank of India in the matter of regulation and supervision of banks. But then, since the Reserve Bank of India does not really deal with the common public, these murmurs of protest and dissent died very soon. Then we had the Chanda Kochhar case. Chanda Kochhar, the former MD of ICICI Bank, was found to have indulged not just in corruption which resulted in personal enrichment, but she was also found to have rampantly manipulated the financial statements of ICICI Bank in order to hide its true financial position, in order to hide the huge NPAs that had taken place. The surprising part is that while she was finally found guilty by the B.N. Sri Krishna commission that was set up by the ICICI Bank, but Reserve Bank of India incidentally had given her a clean chit in the matter in its own inspection conducted about 2 years ago. The question that was asked was, how did the Reserve Bank of India give a clean chit to Chanda Kochhar when all the evidences were there to say that she had been guilty of both these crimes? Personal enrichment through corruption and misuse of power, and of course, manipulating the financial statements of the ICICI Bank. After that, Reserve Bank was found to have taken action in a similar matter related to Shikha Sharma of Axis Bank and Rana Kapoor of Yes Bank. Both of them were found to have indulged in manipulating the financial statements of their banks in order to hide their NPAs, in order to show a rosy financial picture. And Reserve Bank took action against them in 2018. But the fact is that these malpractices under the watch and guard of Shikha Sharma and Rana Kapoor had been continuing since many years. Why did they go undetected from the Reserve Bank side is what continues to be asked. Then came the shocker of all shocks, the mother of all scams, which is ILFS. ILFS one day collapsed like a pack of cards. It had a fund base of 1,32,000 crores and it was found to be a giant fraud. ILFS was an NBFC which was under the direct supervision and regulation of the Reserve Bank of India. The RBI was its regulator and the entire scam at ILFS was being conducted and committed for over a decade. How is it that this giant blatant fraud went unnoticed by the Reserve Bank of India, which had obviously inspected the books of accounts of ILFS since then? That again raised questions about the competence and the conduct of Reserve Bank of India as a regulator. After that, we've had DHFL and India Bulls. In both the cases, the allegations are that over a period of years, the promoters of these companies have siphoned away thousands of crores of money from these two companies. Reserve Bank again happens to be the regulator here. And finally, we have the PMC Bank case. In the PMC Bank case, what comes across very clearly now is that the financial statements of the bank were being manipulated right from 2008 onwards. Reserve Bank was not able to detect it at all. It's only because of a confession letter of Joy Thomas this year that the entire scammy proceedings and mismanagement of PMC Bank came out in the open. The question again is, why did it go undetected by the RBI for so many years? It is thus no wonder that at a recent meeting of the Board of Directors of the Reserve Bank of India, two external directors actually questioned the RBI as to why is it that all the frauds, the banking scams and collapses which have been discovered in 2008 and which continued for many years in the past, why is it that they were discovered only now? Why is it that the Reserve Bank of India had not been able to detect them and they continued for so many years till they became so big that they were too difficult to be concealed? We agree with this anxiety and concern expressed by these external directors of the Reserve Bank of India. But we also have our own questions in the matter of the entire conduct of the regulator, in the matter of supervision, regulation and control of banks, NBFCs and cooperative banks. Because what we are noticing is, one after the other, there have been either bank failures or huge mismanagement in banks or NBFC failures or huge siphoning of public money by NBFCs and their promoters. So, our further questions that we would pose to the Reserve Bank is it that there has been political interference in the functioning of the Reserve Bank of India such that despite the Reserve Bank maybe being aware of the mismanagement of banks, it was asked to keep silent? Because the reality is that it is political interference in the management of public sector banks because of which those giant NPA accounts and willful frauds have taken place. Surely, the Reserve Bank must have been aware of it. Was it that the Reserve Bank was asked to keep quiet because of political interference from the big bosses in Delhi? Our second question would be, are the systems and officers of Reserve Bank of India capable and competent enough to detect these kinds of malpractices, misconduct and mismanagement? Our third question is, does Reserve Bank really have up-to-date data gathering systems in order to get real-time data and not get data after a huge fraud has been committed? What comes out in the PMC Bank case is that the bank used a very different server to feed extremely incorrect and fraudulent information to the Reserve Bank of India and thus managed to perpetrate it for so many years. The question that comes is, does the Reserve Bank of India really have capable data gathering systems? And the final question that we would have for the Reserve Bank is, what is the reason that Reserve Bank of India refuses to make public the list of willful and fraudulent defaulters that it has, despite the Supreme Court directing it to do so, not minding to even incur the ire of the Supreme Court, almost amounting to contempt of court? Why is the Reserve Bank unwilling to disclose this list is our last question to the RBI. We believe that the Reserve Bank has been the most respected regulator in the country, and it needs to get its house in order, not just for the good of the RBI, but also for the good of the nation. Because if these kind of failures and frauds in the system are detected after they have reached giant proportions, it is the regulator who's going to be blamed. This is Akhilesh Bhargava signing off till we meet again. Namaskar.